Chapter 2 College. My freshman year was hectic before I even stepped foot on campus. I moved in Aunt Joan with my aunt on my dad's side. She's a vice president for a large tech company she's been with for about 25 years. I found out why she was exiled from the family after a night of her drinking. Also, the first time I had wine, she told me how my dad had a huge gambling problem that I didn't know about. She talked about how these men would show up randomly when I wasn't around. They would show up at her old place that she kept in our old town for when she came to visit. One day when she came home and her door was unlocked, she thought my dad was there since he was the only other one with a key, but as soon as she walked in, three guys grabbed her. She tried calling for my dad. He was there, but he told the guys to hurry up and that after they were done with her his debt was cleared. After he said that, she excused herself and went into her room for the night. I wanted to know more but dared not push. I started my new job at the bakery a couple days later, and the following week I started working at the library using my time to study business just to get ahead of the game. I also started working out since my aunt had a beautiful trail behind her house. I would get up at 4:30, run until 5:30, then shower and get dressed for my 7:30 shift at the bakery. After the bakery I would grab lunch with my aunt on her break, then go to my library job until 11 at night. One late night at the library while taking a break from studying, and instead read a romance novel, a guy came up to me asking me to recommend him to a romance book with a plot twist that would shock a fortune teller. We started talking even after I closed the library without him grabbing a single book. His name is Xander, a second year at Radford who studies psychology and has a charm that could cure cancer. We sat in his car until 1 in the morning talking about books, people, desserts, and states we wanted to visit one day. Xander wasn't just interesting, he also showed interest like no one has ever in everything I said. He wasn't some frat bro that I've heard about in books and TV shows, nor was he some hippie smoker. He was on the water polo team, had a job at some taco shop, and typically hung out with the same two friends, Josh and Cody, and they were basically inseparable. We started meeting for breakfast regularly. Sometimes I would bring something or he would, sometimes we would meet somewhere depending on how much we could spare that month. He was an only child from Kansas. He talked about how his parents got divorced after his dad had an affair with his mom's sister. They ran off to Florida, leaving him and his mom alone since he was 14. He said that he hated betrayal and thought loyalty was the biggest form of love. After I started my first year, Xander took me to a cheap diner, and after a night of us laughing and talking about everything and nothing, he asked me to officially be his girlfriend. I was so excited that I cried, especially since he was my first boyfriend. I immediately went home to tell my aunt the news, but when I got home, she was getting off the phone with a serious look on her face. My parents put out a missing persons report saying that my aunt took me without their knowledge. The problem with their false report is that I've been gone for 2 months before they filed it, and that I'm legally an adult. This will not be their only attempt to get to me. Aunt Joan had to send messages from my parents to the detectives that said they don't care what either of us did with our lives. They also cashed out on my college fund from my dad's parents, a fund I didn't know about, and bragged to Aunt Joan about it. The detectives picked up on this, asking us about pressing charges, but I didn't want to fight that long battle with my parents over money that I later found out they already spent. After the investigation was dropped, Aunt Joan sat me down to talk about protecting myself from my parents. She explained how that was only the beginning, and that they would definitely come for my of the structure I was building. I told her how the night was going great until that scandal, and that I finally got asked to be someone's girlfriend. Aunt Joan was so excited, and told me not to worry about my family right now, and to focus on my life. The first week of school was hell. I had to get up early for my shift at the bakery, then go to my first 2 classes at 12 until 3, then eat and clock into the library by 5 until 12. Since it wasn't summer anymore, the library closed later to give students a little extra time to study. I got lost, and arrived late to classes multiple times until about week 3. Xander was a huge help, encouraging me, helping with schedule conflicts, even some assignments that he recognized from his freshman year. I met a girl named Ashley, a quiet girl. She was in my classes, but she always sat in the corner not wanting to talk. We ran into each other, literally, walking out of the bathroom. We started talking and bonded over a book that was ironically both our favorites. I invited her over to study since we had a test the end of the month. The study session turned into a sleepover. I was excited since I've never had anyone sleep over since before my brother passed away. We talked about how she was too shy to really talk to anyone and how she's only had one friend that moved away when she was 15. I realized we had so much in common. When she met my aunt, she made a joke that we looked like sisters, which was funny since I had blonde hair and my aunt was a brunette. The next couple of months was a blur of school, work, and hanging with Xander and Ashley. I was making steady A's while keeping up with student loan payments. By the middle of second semester I was tired and stressed. My aunt wanted to take me on vacation to celebrate finishing a year of college once this final semester is over. Earlier in the year she walked me through the process of getting my passport so we could go to Jamaica. On the day of my last test, I took off my 2 jobs so that after the finals I could relax. Aunt Joan scheduled a spa appointment so we could enjoy a peaceful night, since she also had a busy week, so it just made it perfect. The next week I got my final grade. It was a perfect score. I was so excited I immediately showed my aunt, and we went out for ice cream. The next week, we went on the vacation to Jamaica, as we planned, and we loved it. We went cliff diving the first day. I was excited and scared at the same time, realizing I had a fear of heights. Afterwards, we grabbed something to eat, and watched the sunset from the cliff, and my aunt talked about her college days. The next day we went on a tour around of a haunted house, and went to the 7 Mile beach later that night. I posted a couple of pictures online of some of our moments. Some people from my college commented congratulating me, but some was apologizing, which I didn't see until I got home. On day 3 I sat on the balcony by myself feeling something wasn't right back home. While I pushed it out my mind at that moment, it kept coming back up during the day. I chalked it up to old habits and continued to enjoy myself since we were at the Blue Hole. It was so beautiful, and we seen many more things the next 3 days. We enjoyed food, cultural dances, and the beautiful scenery of Jamaica. Going back to the airport I was so sad since the vacation was the most fun I've ever had. Aunt Joan got us first-class tickets so we had a whole cabin to ourselves. The whole time we talked about my future, and planning another trip the next year. She also asked if I wanted to get a pet with her. She always was by herself, but couldn't get one since she would need help taking care of it. I always wanted a cat, but my parents said I was irresponsible. By the time I was old enough my family was so dysfunctional that has decided against it. We talked about what type of cat we wanted, and decided on orange since they fit our chaotic lifestyle. By the second hour of the flight the long vacation finally caught up with us and we drifted off to sleep. When we got back home we were exhausted, and since we had to work the next day, we planned on resting for the rest of the day. Then we saw it, and my bad feeling came rushing back to me in an instant.